He's a mathematician from Zagreb with a demonstrated history working in information technology, and he also worked on two Nanobit's big titles, A Hollywood Story and Fashion Nation. And the aim of his talk will be to show how analysis can be used for business strategy in gaming.
Close enough. Thank you. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining today's talk. I'm Mihael Alapic, and today I will talk about how to get from analysis to business decision. So first, I will let you know my background. So as I was introduced, I started working at Nanobit during my college years, after which I started working as data analyst on Fashion Nation and Hollywood Story. And today I work at Nanobit for almost 6 years as head of analytics. So a little bit about Nanobit, because not all of you are here from the Pandora side. So Nanobit is an award-winning mobile game studio, and we joined the Stillfront group in 2019. So in 14 years, we released more than 20 games, and those games has altogether 235 million downloads. So we count more than 140 employees, and from which 8 of us are working at the analytics department. And maybe the biggest news from this year is that Netflix and Nanobit collaborate on the new mobile game, Too Hot to Handle. So Nanobit is developing, this game will be developed by Nanobit, and it is based on a really famous TV series, maybe you heard about it, Too Hot to Handle. And the game will be available next year globally for all Netflix members. So please feel free to download it when it comes live. So I will talk a little bit about some analysis we made, and because of that, you have to know something about those games. So the first game is Hollywood Story. This is a story-based game that is set in Hollywood. So in this game, players can go shopping. There are a lot of shops and a various number of clothes. They can shoot some movies. There are also some features like player versus player fashion duels and some live ops, and everything everything needed to be a Hollywood diva for the target public. And this game was released in 2015 and has today it is downloaded more than 50 million times. The next game is Taboo. Taboo is a narrative mobile game exploring hot romance stories. So in this game you can choose your playable character. You can also choose your love interests in a very cinematic environment. And this game was released in 2020 and has already 26 million downloads. A very similar game is My Story, also a storytelling game, but with more general stories. This game was released in 2017, yes, and has 56 million downloads. And the last game, Winged, this game is released this year. So this is like a dating simulator game where players can swipe, they can match, and they can chat with matches. And afterwards, they can also go on some dates. Yes, this game was released this year and has already 2.5 million downloads. So let's start with the main part of the presentation. So the use of analytics, when you ask somebody that is not from the analytics world, is mainly that analytics is here for some reports, maybe to create some dashboards and maybe to automate some reporting system. But I like to think that analytics should be the very important part of the production of the game. So this is like maybe a really basic flow how it looks like in many gaming companies. So if somebody from your company, maybe a game designer or game producer, has an idea. After this idea, there's a lot of meetings with developers, with a lot of people, and after which developers implement those changes and updates and new features, and it goes live to production. And after that, after some time where there is enough data, somebody from the analytics team make a result analysis. And this is basically if we see some increase or decrease in some main KPIs that we are looking. But I see also potential that analytics should be here in a more important role. So maybe there is also some space where this flow can be improved. And this could be to make a research. So a research analysis is a really great thing to do before an idea, because if you see from a research analysis, when you see from your data like something that can be improved, something that like some placement for a new opportunity, you should definitely go with it, because if this research analysis produced an idea, this idea has, I would say, a bigger chance to be successful. So I will now show you some examples what research analysis were made in Nanobit on those games I mentioned earlier. So on Hollywood Story, this is a first-time user experience analysis. So this is basically to track the beginning of every new install, to see the first few minutes, the first few steps. The second is on Winged made the monetization analysis, a very general analysis. I will talk about this later. And on my story, a conversion analysis, so to see the placements, the timing when users become payers. And on Taboo, there is, so Taboo and My Story are storytelling games, which means that you can choose a story, start reading it, and start spending gems on them. So My Story and Taboo, so one really famous story from Taboo is the Bodyguard story, and we made an analysis of this particular story. So first, Hollywood Story, this first-time user experience. The beginning of Hollywood Story is based like you have some quests, you have some conversation that can be started, that can be completed. And these are the few first steps. And we have seen that some of those conversations or quests had a lower completion rate. So based on this, we wanted to improve this. And the idea was to add some tutorial arrows. So this is a scene from Hollywood Story. This quest particular is just to chat with Amber, the second character. You have just to tap on her to start talking with her, and a lot of users dropped here. And on those quests, we added some tutorial arrows, and we can see that we had an increase in completion rate for those quests. And the result was also that the number of users that got to this last quest increased by 14%. So a really basic and main analysis just to see where users drop, but a great business decision, I would say. The next analysis is from Winged. So on this game, we made a monetization analysis. So in the company, the assumption was that Winged would behave maybe like Taboo. So you can see Taboo is the green line and Winged is the purple one. So this is because in some way those games are similar, because on Taboo you start reading stories, you can spend gems on them. On Winged you start chatting with some NPCs, you can also spend gems on them. So the assumption was that those games would have some similar behavior. And here are two graphs. One is the conversion scaled graph, the other one is the LTV scaled. So this basically says that this basically shows us how fast or slow users are converting, or do they monetize. And we can see that Taboo in comparison with Winged in comparison with Taboo had a slower conversion curve, which means that many payers converted later in the game. And the assumption was also that this LTV curve was also slower because of the conversion curve. So when we looked a little bit deeper, we have seen that 41% of payers converted on some kind of conversion offers that were included early in the game. So that was like a very large percentage of payers that converted on them. And besides that, on Winged whales are users that are spending more than $100 in the game, buy more expensive packages. So to summarize that, Winged whales or payers have like a great potential to spend more. And the conversion curve showed us that they are converting later, and also 41% of payers converted on those conversion packages. So the idea was to remove all conversion packages that we had in this game. And the result was that we increased LTV day 28 by 36%, and the conversion stayed the same. That was very interesting because, in other words, we had the same amount of pairs, but we switched them to just to convert on the normal standard in-app packages and not on those conversion offers, which is better for us because they are not so cheap. The third example is the conversion analysis made on My Story. So on My Story, you can buy gems, subscription, and tickets. Those are some currencies in this game. And you can see that here it's important to mention that the most of revenue comes from gems. So the red line is maybe the most important for us. So we have seen that after just 4 chapters, so this first story has a lot of chapters, but after just 4 chapters completed, 87% of pairs are converting on gems packages, which wasn't so unusual because in the 5th chapter we had the highest gem spend. There was like a really great special choice and a lot of users spent their money there. So, but it was a great opportunity maybe because a lot of pairs converted in very early in the game. And the idea was to offer one-time offer. So this offer was a cheaper and a better value package than standard in-app packages that we had. And those was only for users that were non-payers after 5 chapters read, because 90% of pairs already converted on them, and 10%, and we are here only risking 10% of them, and also hoping for new pairs because we offered them a cheaper and a better value package. And the result was that we increased LTV day 5 by 21%, and the conversion day 5 was increased by 16%. So the last example was the story analysis from the story named Bodyguard. So we released this story, and it had really great progress, the best we had in that time. But this didn't stop us to improve the story. When we looked a little bit deeper, we have seen that there are some visible drops on the 5th, 6th, and 8th chapter. So also besides that, on those stories in My Story and Taboo Game, you can spend gems on choices, on special choices, but you can also spend on outfits because you go on some dates, before dates you have to dress up and so on. So you have to also spend gems on outfits. And it was interesting to see that Bodyguard had the best special choice monetization from all stories, but really low outfit gem spend. So because of that, we had a meeting with our editorial and content team, and they made a rework of Bodyguard with focus on those chapters and outfit choices. So here you can see that this is like gem spent per chapters, but compared with 2 groups. We A/B tested the default Bodyguard story with the reworked one. So the control had the default, and the test group, the A/B test group 2, had the reworked one. And you can see here that in those chapters where we made some changes, where we added some outfits or changed the price, we had a better monetization in those chapters. And the result was that we had a better story progress and 20% increase in revenue per story for users that started reading Bodyguard. So in the last few slides, we could see that some research analysis produced some great ideas, and those ideas were like good business decision. Some of them were also not so successful, to be honest, but I would say that analytics should not only be used here for reporting, because all of those research analyses were made for when our data analysts had like some free time, I would say. So they could play with the data, they could start researching and making some assumptions and also some analysis on their own. So I would say that it is a great practice that your data analysts have some free time to play with the data and to have a research, because from those research analysis there could be also great ideas behind them, and some of those ideas will succeed and they will have a great business success. So as Deming said, you can control what you can't measure, so because of that, measure data, make a research and control your game. And with that sentence, thank you very much, and I hope it was a great presentation. Thank you, thank you. So feel free to ask some question, maybe now or later.
So if anyone wants to ask anything, I'll bring the mic.
For conversion, what do you consider conversion? Is it any purchase in the game, or there's a threshold that a user must achieve in order to be considered as a conversion?
So conversion is basically when a user buys any package. But in this last picture from my story, the conversion was calculated per purchase type, I would say, because you can buy also gems, you can buy tickets, you can buy subscriptions. So, but basically, like the high level, we count conversion as any package that is bought from a user. Yes, yes. Any other question? Okay, then. Thank you very much. And yeah, if you have any other question, we can meet later. Thank you.